Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Twitch to YouTube. I am Outlawman76. I thank you for joining us, and if you haven't had a chance to check out our first episode, where our guest was Dorklina, I highly encourage it. Today's guest is a streamer who joins us from South Africa. She is a Twitch partner with over 8,000 followers. Her name is TheaBeasty. She is a friend of mine, as was Dorklina, and I've spent a total of 333 hours in her chat watching her streams. And we have a very good conversation coming up, one that I'm very pleased with and excited to share with you all. We touch on a lot of subjects, including her Gwent partnership and her Twitch partnership, among other things. So stay tuned, enjoy the conversation. I hope you get as much out of it as I did, and thank you for joining us. And here's the conversation with TheaBeasty. Well, welcome into the conversation part here. I'm with the lovely TheaBeasty, and thank you for joining us. And I will start off firstly by asking, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Outlaw Manor. Thanks for having me. I
Yes.
just ended my stream and I'm ready for the next Gwent patch to hit us tomorrow.
Well, yes, I am very inexperienced with Gwent, but I do enjoy these streams, and I know that the patch is pretty exciting for everybody, so involved in the community. So I ask a few standardized questions that I ask to every guest, and then some personalized questions. So I usually start with the standardized questions. The first question, it all begins in a name. So tell us about your name. Where did you come up with it, and what does it mean to you?
TheaBeasty or Tia, because my mother came up with the first part of that name. You likely mean TheaBeasty, right?
Yes, I mean you can tell us about the your first name if you'd like, but the screen name was what I asked or what I meant.
Well, okay. Well, my grandmother's name is Tia,
Mm.
so they in our culture they like naming the child after the grandparents. It often happens. So my sister's name's Louisa,
Hmm.
and she got named after the other grandmother. So my name was almost Louisa, but luckily we got Tia. And Beastie is a nickname from high school actually, and because I was very active in my high school. I was doing sports and all of that. So my hockey teammates, that's field hockey by the way, they started calling me Beast. Now that wasn't very feminine, but that wasn't the point back then. And I decided I like the nickname. I'm gonna take it over to streaming, but I'm gonna change it to Beastie
Mm.
to at least make it more. I don't know. I liked Beastie a lot more. We already have a Beast, Mr. Beast, that is. So I went with TheaBeasty so that the name isn't taken already because not a lot of people will call themselves TheaBeasty.
Mm.
And yeah, I almost called myself Tia Beans, and a lot of my chat will mock me for that. Don't ask me why, but luckily we didn't go that route, so it's all good now.
In an alternate universe somewhere, Tia Beans is a thing and is exploding, and is there's a whole bean community.
Scary.
Just
Can you imagine?
so, as an American, we see your name. At least I see your name and think Thea, but you pronounce it
Ah.
Tia. So the just for the
Mm.
record, the correct pronunciation would be Tia Beastie.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's my fault.
Yeah.
It's my language's fault. I mean, you see an H, it's a th, right? It's here, it's Thea as well in English, but my mother decided to call me Tia as in the Afrikaans way. We ignore the H in Afrikaans. It makes no sense, but here we are.
No, well, I mean, it's all about cultural exchange. So, how did you get started on Twitch? You mentioned that you brought the nickname over from high school to streaming. So, what? How did you get started? What made you stream, and that process?
So initially the goal was never to stream because I'm not the type of person who goes seeks attention and wants 200 people to watch me like back 3 years back that would have terrified me.
Mm.
But I reached a point in university where I wasn't playing any games and it was draining the life out of me. But because I couldn't justify not studying to play games, even though I really wanted to me it felt I don't know, I felt selfish for doing that. So I decided, okay, how can we make gaming productive? Is
Hmm.
there any way to justify me taking a break? Of course, there's always a justification, but I just didn't think so at the time. And I decided, okay, let's go ahead and stream games a little bit. if it's successful, we can make an income, though that was never really the goal. The goal was to play games while socializing. So that would make it productive. That means I don't have to go out of the house and meet up with people, and I can still grow a community. And that's eventually what happened. So now this is my idea of socializing most of the time. Although I do go out, but it's a bit difficult during Corona.
Right.
And now it's productive. So I get to play Gwent a lot more than I would have.
That's it's actually pretty interesting. I gotta be honest. Of all the origin stories, if you will, that's actually the first one of its type where somebody was seeking a way to make it productive. Usually, it's just I was bored and I decided to do it. So you mentioned productivity and doing something with. You are now a Twitch partner, which is essentially the highest level that a streamer can achieve on Twitch. So I was just wondering, what was that process like for you applying for it and gaining it, and what does it mean to you to be a Twitch partner?
Well, again, back then it wasn't about getting a purple mark. It was like, wow, this is the highest level of productivity I can reach, because now because Twitch takes a share of the subscriptions. Now, of course, back then I wasn't getting a lot, and it was never the purpose. But hey, if you get anything, it's like, I can buy a university textbook with the little bit I just made. And now, if you become a partner, you get half the money of each subscription, whereas normally Twitch takes a lot more. So you just get a small percentage of every subscription, which a lot of people probably don't know. So applying was very stressful, because I don't know if you know of other streamers like Lionheart, for instance, who has been applying for as long as I have and still hasn't gotten in, even though he is hitting all of those requirements, and so was I.
Yeah.
And then you get all of these reasons you don't qualify yet, and they don't really make sense. So there's sort of other things they're looking at, they're not telling you. So it was very stressful for some reason, but when I got it, I finally could just play games and call it productive from here on out. I never have to, play one specific game so it is relevant enough for Twitch partnership or anything like that. So I've reached that sweet spot where I'm very happy and can do whatever I want to do now.
Yes, well, I'm sure everybody who watches this would agree Lionheart does deserve it, and you did too. So congratulations to you, and I hope that he will get there, and I believe he will. So you mentioned Gwent. You are an important member of the Gwent community. How did you get started with Gwent, and what made you decide to start streaming Gwent?
Okay, so I got started through The Witcher 3 because it was a mini game in the main Witcher game. So I found it very fun, although a lot of people just completely ignored those side quests. And then CDPR came out with their beta version of it on PlayStation 4 back in 2016. So I was still in high school, and obviously I started playing it for fun, just like all my other games. And then I began streaming in 2017, I think. And I began streaming all kinds of games. And when I got into Gwent, the community was just so different than any other one I have been in. Like, I went from 6 viewers to 60 within a day, and all of them was there because they were just so happy there's another person in the Gwent community, and it was just so wholesome. I never left it, and I don't think I ever will, because it's just something else, and I think everyone in Gwent will tell you this. So I stuck to it, and yeah, I'm now a full-on Gwent streamer most of the time.
I can honestly say, as somebody who isn't, I don't, Gwent kind of escapes my mind's capacity sometimes, but the communities that I've been in, the streams that I've been in, they're very wholesome. There's a lot of camaraderie involved, and so I understand what you're saying. But you mentioned that you started playing other games, and now that you stream Gwent full most of the times. I know that I played with you on your stream sometimes. We played The Forest or Minecraft and other things.
Those were the days.
Yes. So how do you balance how much Gwent do you play versus other content? What is that process like, deciding what you're going to stream or how much of it?
Well, I'm not going to lie, it's getting very difficult, because even though I've told myself, look, Tia, you have the right to play games because you enjoy games. They don't always have to be productive. There's still that voice in my head saying that. So when I go from, let's say, 200 and something viewers playing Gwent, and I drop to, let's say, 80 playing a different game, there's that voice telling me, well, does this count as productive, or are you just playing something you like for fun? And then I have to tell myself, well, yes, Tia, you're allowed to play other games, and doing so on the stream is more fun for the community as well.
Mm.
But because I've started casting recently, it's now my job suddenly to know what I'm doing when I'm playing Gwent,
Mm.
and therefore I almost see it more as my responsibility to play more Gwent and to know what I'm doing. But yeah, I do get a chance every now and then to try out a indie game, but the goal is to one day reach a point where I can play full-on RPGs and just have the time to do that as well as Gwent. But it's difficult while you're doing real life things in the background as well, for sure.
Yeah. Somehow there's never seems to be enough hours in the day, and
Yeah.
there's a limit to the number of things you can do at once, unfortunately.
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's you mentioned casting, which is actually really good because my next question is about casting. You got to cast for CDPR, the official Gwent Open, recently. What was that like? Coming, as you said, you started streaming Gwent, and you saw the community come around you. You've ascended through the community, so you are now working with CDPR. Casting their official. Um, Open. So tell us what it was like as a fan of Gwent, as a streamer, and just that whole process, and what was you thinking, and how do you felt about it?
I honestly, I'm still processing it. Um, I'm going to tell you, imposter syndrome is very real and
Mm.
alive. And it was honestly, I would say it's a dream come true, but I never had this goal when I started playing Gwent.
Mm.
I watched the opens and it was amazing, and the casters to me were like celebrities,
Mm-hmm.
and also the people who took part. And then I just got asked by CDPR somewhere at the start of the year if I wanted to hop into an interview for an open event, and it was just mind blowing. I never expected it would happen, and of course I said yes. It was honestly, it was amazing. I was expecting a lot of criticism, but the community, that again the community,
Mm.
they were so supportive, and just giving so much love. And yeah, it was a very stressful experience, but at the same time so much fun,
Mm.
and I would do it again every single time.
It's the good stress, the stress of doing something you really
Yes.
like and want to do it well. Well, I mean, you casted with Lionheart, and I think everybody would agree that seeing you two together, your chemistry is second to none. So it was, I think the both of you did really well. I was watching, not really understanding, but I was watching. Um, but you mentioned a lot of real life stuff in the background. You're a student, you're a Twitch and Gwent partner, and you've mentioned on your stream that you're in the process of novel writing, or you've I believe you've written most of it, and now you're doing
Yeah.
the process. Just how do you balance it all? How do you find the good balance between the study, the work, the school, everything?
It's honestly an ongoing process. I definitely haven't mastered it. Um, Again, it's a sort of hitting like 2 to 3 birds with one stone. I feel like, when I'm doing Gwent, I'm doing the socializing aspect, and I now have a job, so I don't have to go out as much, and
Mm.
I don't have to find a job. So that's all three of those in one, which is great. Then I have a problem of always, I'm one of those people who feels like they need to be productive 24/7, which isn't a good thing.
Mm.
So it means that when I find writing fun and I like reading, so I told myself, well, Tia, this needs to be productive now, so you need to write a book. So it became work, and now that is also an aspect of my life where I'm hitting 2 birds with one stone. And studies is something else, because you always feel like you could be doing more,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to figure out, when am I going to take a break and play some Gwent, or when do I need to not play Gwent and rather, spend all my time on this task I have to get done for Friday. So I just take it as it comes. If something goes wrong, if I get a bad mark, that's a sign that I need to play less and study more. Or if I start, mispronouncing, oh, that's ironic, my cards in Gwent, I know it's time to play a little bit more Gwent because I'm falling behind. Yeah, it's a sort of catching up game, 24/7 mostly.
So you mentioned that you're the personality type of needing to be productive 24/7. How then do you avoid burnout, because you have so many pots on the stove, if you will, and how do you like avoid burning out one or more of those pots?
uh, Having more than two is nice because if one of them gets tiresome, I can just take a break
Mm.
and nobody will even know because I'm doing two others at the same time. It helps. The thing what I did is I picked things I really liked.
Mm.
So it's not like I have this corporate job or I'm a lawyer and it's very hard work and that's it, you know.
Mm.
Work is work and it's hard. It's more like I'm taking activities that are already really fun and I attempt to make those productive, which takes away from the fun at certain times. I won't
Right.
lie, but it also means I can do more of said activity, which
Mm-hmm.
is a fun activity. So there's always a line, right? You're not supposed to be playing video games 8 hours a day. You reach a point where that becomes, you know, bad for your mental health, and it's. But studying for 8 hours a day is also not always a good thing, right?
Right.
So you need to balance it, and if you need to, you take a day off and just lay in the garden and sip on some tea. It's necessary every now and then.
Yeah, balance is key. So
Mm.
we touched on it before when we were talking about your name. You're from South Africa. You are South African. Here, at least in America, I am an American. In case anybody at home doesn't know, we are basically taught a very limited amount about your country. There's
Mm.
pretty much two subjects that we're taught about, and then there's nothing else. So Twitch has a lot of international. I mean, it's all over the world. It's the internet. How important to you is sort of the cultural exchange aspect of it? People come in and want ask questions about South Africa. You have redeems on your channel that involve Afrikaans language. So just how important is the cultural exchange aspect and sort of enlightening people about your country? How important is that to you?
It's so important. It falls under socialization, but socializing. But the fact that you get to speak to people abroad was just wow from the get go.
Mm.
Like I mean, there's just those first few people in chat. They normally ask where are you from. I'll tell them I'm from South Africa, and I'll ask where they're from, and you realize 6 people in chat are from different parts of the world. It was just mind blowing, and like the connections I've made, like I'm talking with you right now,
Mm.
all the way from America. I'm on the other hand, I'm talking with Lionheart from England, Zubadu from India. It's very surreal in all honesty, and yeah, not a lot of people know from South Africa. So we do have a lot of things that our country hides. We have a lot of things that are really cool about our country, and people don't know of those things. So being able to sort of bring light to them in the process is also really nice. It makes you feel like you have a bit of purpose when streaming if you can bring attention to certain subjects in the process.
I speak for myself in this aspect. When you spoke to my college group, it enlightened so much. They were very. It's one thing to read statistics or a story or something, but when you talk to somebody who's living in the on the ground, and I know what you mean about making the connections because I have friends from obviously I talk to Lionheart as well, and I talk to people in Europe and in Asia, and you just get a sense of the day-to-day life of these countries, and it's really really good. So it is important to me as well, and I'm glad it's important to you. Speaking of Lionheart, you and him share a Discord together. You share a lot of community members. I was just wondering, what does that partnership, like the partnership that you have with Lionheart, what does that mean to you, and how do you feel it's helped you, and to some extent him grow as both streamers and people?
Well, I mean, we have a very similar history when it comes to Twitch.
Mm.
Both of us did it for a while, and then I had to stop because of life happening. And then we both got back at the exact same time. And I noticed this young British lad doing his thing, and I saw a lot of potential in him. I saw nice personality. And from there on out, we started doing community projects together because the feeling was mutual, and we saw we worked quite nicely together. So we first started with the Merchants of Novigrad podcast. We were guests on a Weissenberg's podcast.
Mm.
That was really nice. And from there on out, we jumped into our own project where we did a podcast where we interviewed gaming devs with new games. And from there on out, we just decided we were going to start casting together. And it just worked. The community liked it. we just, yeah, we click very well together. I feel like we complement each other nicely, and it's nice having someone on your team, because things happen behind the scenes, and if you have someone who's there for you, and you share responsibilities on a Discord, it's really nice, and it makes your job a lot easier. I mean, we've both been casting now in the open, so whatever is happening there, it's working. So
Yeah.
I won't be stopping that anytime soon. I'll tell you that.
Yes, I can agree. As a member of both communities, it works very well. When two of you are together, it's really good. Speaking of the two of you, and I'll wrap this up. You have a out of focus show, correct? Is
Yeah,
that
that was the one.
yes? Is that something that is still active? Is it on hiatus, or is it something that because again all the fires are burning? That's just it hasn't had a chance to um,
Mm.
resurface.
Pretty much the latter. With the casting now, there's almost no time to do anything else. If you have a little bit more time, you cast another community tournament, because it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
And yeah, it's wow, it's I didn't realize how much work these things were, by the way. Like the project you're doing,
Hmm.
I have an idea, just how much work goes on behind the scenes. It's contacting people, thinking out questions, getting them into a schedule where you can have a chat with them, editing. It's so much more work than people think it is, and yeah, it's you can't do both,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
And the good thing, there's a positive to it being an international thing, but the drawback is time zones. So you have to
Mm.
balance. There's a difference of 7 hours between you and I right now, so you have to balance what's workable for both people, and somebody's either up early or up late, one or the other. But I just want to ask one last thing, finally, to wrap it up. Is there anything coming up for you, projects that you have that you'd like to tell us about, or anything you'd like to have us look forward to?
And let's put it like this: there are definitely some big things in the work that I am not allowed to disclose.
Ah,
But you will be aware of them very soon. And let's just say, I was excited before. I'm very excited now. So that's all I can tell you.
well, we're equally excited. So, follow TheaBeasty. The links will be down below in the description of the video. Tia, thank you so very much for being here, and I hope to may have you back in the future. We'll talk about these exciting projects that we cannot yet disclose.
Thanks for having me, Jay. As
Thank you.
always, it has been a massive pleasure talking to you, and I do wish we can play The Forest too when it comes out at some point.
You count me in for that. I am in 100%.
I'm
Thank you.
taking that as your word. You
Yeah,
can't fall back on it now.
it's on video. There's evidence. Thank you very much, Tia. And that was the conversation with the lovely Tia Beastie, the wonderful and graceful Tia Beastie. I thank you all for joining us, and once again, I want to say thank you to Tia for joining us. I think it was a very wonderful conversation. I know I got a lot from it, and I've spent plenty of time in her chat. I hope that you have taken something from it as well. And I thank you again for joining us for the second episode of Twitch to YouTube. Stay tuned to my socials, my Twitch channel and this YouTube channel for more information for upcoming guests. I thank you again, and be safe and be well. I'm Outlawman76 saying goodbye until next time.